Good Packer Nation Monday morning, guys and dolls. Yeah, it feels like a Monday. No Packer football to watch last night. But there was some interesting stuff that happened last night, or yesterday and last night. So we'll talk about that a little bit and catch up with, of course, the big upcoming matchup against the Falcons with the Packers. But in the meantime, let me know who you are and where you're coming at me from. Let's do some Packer Nation roll call as we get started this Monday morning. And I, Don the Precious. Oh yes, here it is. All right, who do we have on this Monday morning? Packers with a big win against the Chicago Bears to kick off the week's action. And unfortunately, though, that meant that we didn't get to watch any football. Well, we got to watch a lot of football, but we didn't get to watch any Packer football. Hey there, Tim. Alejandro is here. Lauren is on. Adien. And Annette and Ryan is here. He's telling me I'm late. I don't know. I have this Edward Jones cup, and for some reason I thought that when you said I was late, I thought for some reason I could do like a spot for Edward Jones, and that would make it better or something. Hey there, Linda. Hi, Sean, Brian, Israel, and Michelle. Good to see you guys. Michelle from Oklahoma. All right, good to see you on the show today. Jose is here, and Jared is back. He says he's here-ish. Walking Dead. Yeah, of course. All right, guys, you can emoji me this. If you watch The Walking Dead, you might want to put that big wow on the screen or whatever. I heard there was, don't tell me what happened because I didn't watch it. So I got to tell you, I'm not a zombie fan. I don't know what the deal is. If it was ever real, I guess I would be, really serious about it. But Matthew is here. Noah is here. He's got coffee for everyone. All right, John, Sherry, good to see you. Christine and Jose. Ethan is here from Kentucky. All right, Ethan, I'm down in Johnson City, Tennessee. So, Michelle says from Wisconsin. All right. All right, guys. Well, geez, man. Okay, so the Packers start off the week of football on Thursday night. Beat the Bears. We're very happy about that. Maybe to some extent, hey there, Jeff. Good morning to you, man. Maybe to some extent, we're happy for the win. There may be still some consternation as to the first half of football and how we kind of looked like same old for a little bit. But, that being said, okay, emoji me your thoughts. The Vikings are no longer undefeated, folks. How do you feel about that? I really want to know. I want to see that stream come across. Peter says he misses Wisconsin. I do too, my friend. I hear you there. Nicole says the video's stuck, but it's looking good from here. So emoji me your feelings on the Minnesota Vikings going down to the Eagles in a game that was, if I was going to describe it, a comedy of errors. I see Brownman is out there. Good to see you, girl. Tracy is here. Christine and Danielle. A comedy of errors is the only way I could see that. The Vikings defense looked nothing like they have in the past. And then, of course, the offense sort of looked like what you'd expect when you can't run the ball. And Sam Bradford sort of looked like his luck had run out. Like he had, it had finally caught up with him, his sort of lack of athleticism. And the Eagles, frankly, did enough in this game at home to finally win it. But Packers game back now, and although we're one behind, I think, but we've got to beat this Atlanta Falcons team. This is our chance. We finally pulled it off against the Bears. Now we got to go down to Atlanta in what is going to be a much tougher matchup. We didn't quite crack with 26 points, we didn't quite crack the 30-point mark again. And against Atlanta, I don't know that we can win against Atlanta if we don't crack the 30-point mark. So how do we do that going down there? Of course, I'm going to hold off on that. I'm going to hold off on that because it's going to be a long week, and if I start talking about it now, I'm going to run out of stuff to say. But the Packers, number one thing is we played the Thursday night game, so we get a little bit of a chance to catch up with our rest and maybe get some guys back healthy. This is a very banged-up team, but it has been said, and I think we've had this conversation with some of the Facebook friends that messaged in to us. Remember, the 2010 season was rife with injuries as well. there are times, we said this before the Chicago Bears game, that sometimes these seeds of the challenges bring out the best in people from time to time, and I do think that that is part of what happened in that game against the Chicago Bears. I think we had a challenge in front of us. I've got to give credit to Mike McCarthy with all of the players that were not available to him. Got to give credit to Dom Capers to be able to pull off a win. And and again, of course, we all know it was against the Chicago Bears, but the Bears had been putting up some good numbers. They had a good wide receiving group. Of course, losing Brian Hoyer was big for them as well. So we will see what happens with that. But the Vikings are no longer undefeated. How about, I guess, let's just go through it, okay? So we had an early morning game. You got to see the New York Giants beat the LA Rams now. And that was another comedy of errors game. Washington goes down to Detroit. They can't beat Detroit. A 3-point game there, 20-17. Detroit wins that one. What was the other one I was looking at? There's several here. Philadelphia 21-10 over Minnesota too, which is no laughing matter. I mean, really there. And then you have San Diego beats Atlanta. Now that is interesting to me because now obviously we are the follow-up game to that, and the Atlanta Falcons are going to be they're going to be upset, to say the least, and they're going to be looking for some revenge, and the Packers are going to have all they can do to get that one done. So we'll see how that goes. And then the Seattle Seahawks and Arizona Cardinals game. I think that was the one where neither kicker could make a field goal and ended in a tie, guys. Arizona and Seattle, those are division rivals. Those are guys, we've got to play Seattle. We've got a head-to-head matchup against them. That is a game that could matter down the stretch in the NFC, and especially the NFC West. And it ends in a tie, the absolute worst conclusion. And I think we've said here in the past, Angela's saying Seattle versus Arizona was a joke. And I think we've said in the past that, the NFL needs to find a way to make sure that games don't end in a tie, because that is just ridiculous. But man, crazy week of games, and that one being one of the craziest. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff going on, but of course, then Atlanta going down and the Minnesota Vikings going down, but the Minnesota Vikings going down to the Philadelphia Eagles then begs the question, how are the Packers going to be? We again have to travel to that same environment where the Minnesota Vikings couldn't win. How do we stand in regards to that? I think we are seeing coming up in this the game against the Atlanta Falcons, an absolute touchstone game. It's going to hit right about mid-season for us now at this point. An absolute touchstone game for how we will, how we're going to proceed, in coming games, and how perhaps this team, what they're going to be able to do to pick up the pieces and kind of try to find an offensive rhythm again. And then, of course, the defense to see if they can continue to be disruptive. If Ladarius Gunter, for example, can continue, I think if we can keep matching Ladarius Gunter up on number one receivers, and that's what I think we're doing. He's playing sort of that Sam Shields role, but a little bigger guy, longer arms, a more physical, perhaps less relying on his speed. It'll be interesting to see moving forward, but obviously Atlanta is going to be a tough challenge. So we'll see what happens. But boy, an interesting round of games last night. Some really good. We saw some good defense. We saw some terrible defense. We saw some special teams play that was just sort of, again, a comedy of errors. But again, it was an interesting. I have a great question coming across. Terry is asking thoughts on Lacey never playing for the Packers again. We already talked about this, but I'm going to mention it again. Of course, you get a contract year on a guy like this. He did everything that the team asked him to do. He was playing well. Of course, you got to give credit to the offensive line as well, and we'll see how that plays out moving forward, because if it's really the offensive line that was doing the job, we'll see these guys step up, and they could be successful as well if we can get Starks back. But Eddie Lacy, I feel for Eddie Lacy, but for crying out loud, I don't know if he's going to have staying power in Green Bay at this point. Paul is saying always gets hurt. He has had these sort of nagging ankle injuries, and now we've got a bad ankle injury, one that's requiring surgery. I don't think it bodes well for him, and here's part of the reason I don't think it bodes well for him, is Ted Thompson is one of those guys that likes to pick up these late round running backs and just see what he can do. He likes to pick up these undrafted free agents and just see what he can do with them. We have not, we're not the type. I think maybe Jackson was a second rounder a long time ago, but we're not the type of team that goes after and reaches for running backs. And to some extent, I agree with that philosophically. Right now, because I like what Eddie Lacy had done, I really appreciated what he had done coming into this game. The guy was running well. There's just no question about it. He was running well. He was running better than Starks. I do not expect us to improve with who we've brought on. I got to give credit to the offensive line, but I do expect our running game to take a step back, to be quite honest. If we don't bring Lacy back, I expect our running game to take a step back for the long term. And recall, until Starks came along, we couldn't buy a running game to save our lives, and it hurt us badly. And we have seen, now, you ask yourself this question quite honestly. Is Aaron Rodgers, this team is going to, the offense is now going to be on Aaron Rodgers' shoulders. We showed that, and he shined in the game against Chicago. And they were a banged-up team as well. So do we really, really, truly want to continue forward without a running game? I'm afraid that we are going to go back to that time when we were bouncing back and forth between running backs, running back by committee, when we're looking at an Eddie Lacy who there is no question could carry the load. James Starks couldn't carry the load for us. If he comes back, I do not expect him to be able to carry the load. I appreciate what he did in the 2010 run. But Eddie Lacy was carrying the load. Aaron Ripkowski got in there and for one play carried the load. And then we saw what happened the next game. Can't make 1 yard with an extra lineman in. So Paul's out there saying we need new coaching, not so much new players. Okay, well, what do you think? What do you think about Paul's comment? Do we need more turnover in our coaching department? Give me a thumbs up for coaching department. Give me an angry face for the player department. Is this a personnel issue or is this a coaching staff issue? I would say at this point that it's a personnel issue. We've had some play calls. I thought the play call, thinking you were going to get all tricky and run Ty Montgomery up the middle basically with no blocking. I thought that was a terrible play call. In fact, I think I messaged Trent, if you're out there, I think I messaged Trent or Jeff and said, I think that's the worst play call that I've ever seen. Just play action at least. Give us a chance. Mike is saying execution is the key, and I agree with that. Execution, this team has gone out and look at all the drop passes. Look at all the miss. Everybody that's getting on here and saying we got to let go of the coaching staff, ask yourself if you have not complained about Aaron Rodgers missing passes this year. If it's a missed pass to an open receiver, that's an execution issue. If it's Jordy Nelson going up, if it's and I don't even want to bring it in, but if it's Randall Cobb catching a ball in the end zone and not tapping down with his other foot, that's an execution issue. The play is there, folks. The plays have been there all year. But there have been problems. We have had times where I have had an issue with the play calling. But we have had plenty of plays that we have left on the field that could have made this team successful. Terry is saying McCarthy out, Gruden in. I have a question for Packer Nation right now, all right? So I'm going to go with this whole coaching staff thing right now, even though I don't agree. Because we have had plenty of plays that we've left on the field that would have been successful. At this point, let me ask you this, though. On Monday morning, if Ted Thompson fires Mike McCarthy, and, listen carefully, and the Bears fire Fox, should the Packers pick up John Fox? Give me a thumbs up if you agree, Angry face if you disagree. If Mike McCarthy is out in Green Bay and Fox is out in Chicago, should Green Bay be making a play for Fox? Thumbs up is yes. Angry face is no, we don't want him. I see a lot of angry faces coming across. Make a lot of people angry on a Monday morning. Samantha says cuss no. There's a lot of no's. Cuss no. No Fox. Hard for Capers' scheme to work when guys plug the wrong gaps and miss tackles, says Keith. For crying out loud. I mean, we gave up 16 points. 10 points. And 16 points. We're barely giving up. Maybe you're talking about the Cowboys game. I don't know. Brown says a cuss no on John Fox. So let me ask the same question then about John Gruden. John Gruden, yes or no? Thumbs up is yes. Angry face is no for John Gruden. I don't think John Gruden has any interest in coaching. I think he's having a lot of fun. He still seems to have the fire, but I don't think John Gruden, he would definitely be a change of pace from Mike McCarthy. There's no question about that. Josh says no again. We got a maybe out there. Hey, man, you can't say maybe. You got to say yes or no. That's the game, right? You got a thumbs up or angry face. We don't let you go middle ground. Thumbs up. I totally understand. I like to put it black and white because then you just got to make a choice. But there are so many moving parts there are so many questions out there right now about the offense, about the defense. I think the defense is doing one cussing heck of a job, considering how many they've lost already. The offense, I've got to take hats off to him in this game against the Bears. To put up that many points, we had 2 touchdowns we left on the field on top of that. And we had the missed PAT and a missed field goal in that game. So we were right on that 30-point mark. Hector says he'd take Gruden over Fox. I tend to agree. I mean, I do like Gruden's fieriness. I like his energy. He's familiar, obviously, with the team. He's got some history with us. He's not familiar with the team in any way, shape, or form, I guess, really. But he does have history with us, I guess. Lewis says if we get Fox, we'll be like the Bears. Yeah, it was interesting. You look back, and Fox had that really nice run with the Broncos, but the Broncos had no... they didn't really hesitate to get rid of him. So they definitely did not think it was coaching that was what was making that team successful. How about this question out there for Packer Nation on a Monday morning? Maybe it's time to close with that. I don't know. Guys, let me ask you this. And this just popped into my head before I got on the show. Is Aaron Rodgers now the kind of quarterback that we... let me phrase this correctly. Is Aaron Rodgers getting to the point in his career where for him to be successful and for him to finish his career with any more Super Bowls, the Green Bay Packers are going to have to bring in another stud defensive lineman to make this happen, or linebacker in our case. We're a 3-4 defense, so, is Aaron Rodgers at the point in his career where perhaps he is stagnating a little bit, and the reason I'm asking this question is, look at Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was far from stellar in that Super Bowl run. Far from stellar. And he was far from stellar in that Super Bowl win. Are we at the point, you can thumbs up if you agree, that Aaron Rodgers, that the Packers are going to have to go out and get a Von Miller. They're going to have to go out and we saw Reggie White, what he did for the Green Bay Packers many, many years ago. Rest in peace, Reggie. Love you, man. Are we at the point where that's the only way we're going to get back to the big dance? Or that's maybe we can get back to the big dance, but we're not going to be able to be successful? Or do you relate it to, because I can tell you what we're not going to be. And this is, if I'm reading the tea leaves, I can tell you what we're not going to be. We're not going to be a team. We're not going to be a Denver Broncos that goes out and has a running back do the job for them. We know that. Elway made like the helicopter play that we see all the time, made one play. But it's the running game that made the Broncos successful at the end of the Elway era. I am afraid, but again, so what's the following question to that? If you agree with that we are the kind of team now that we're going to have to go out and get one more stud on our defensive line, or another, we still are short one linebacker, say. Or Terry is saying a shutdown corner. That's a good point. All right, but that we're going to have to dip into free agency, and that we're going to have to get somebody that's a stud, not a developmental player, not even a high round draft pick. We tried that with A.J. Hawk. But here's the following question. If that is the case, will Ted Thompson get it done? Now everybody can thumbs up me to tell me you think that Ted Thompson is going to go out and make that happen at this point. I see 3 of them, and I'm talking, do you realistically think Ted Thompson will go out and get this kind of a situation done? Peter is saying we need a more dependable running game, and I think we do. That's part of the reason I'm sad to see Eddie Lacy not in it right now. Wow. So this could be a critical moment in the Aaron Rodgers era, I think. Because here's the deal. The offense is now going to be on the back of Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers fails, the coach is going to get fired. Aaron Rodgers isn't going anywhere, guys. We know that. So what's going to happen is, and Jerry is saying no, and so what's going to happen is we have this team that's on the back of Aaron Rodgers. Maybe we have a coaching staff change. Maybe that's a good thing. Sometimes change is a good thing. But if we go in with that mindset, because we know Aaron Rodgers ain't going nowhere, now is our defense, which is really, we are truly, and I give a lot of credit to our defense because we've got a lot of undrafted guys. Sam Shields, who's not playing for us right now, but you got Gunter. We've got a lot of guys that, and all of our high draft picks have generally they've been more duds than thuds, to be quite honest. Perry is coming in here playing real well. But they have been very much developmental players, and out of our first round draft picks, Kenny Clark had a good game. I'm not saying he didn't have a good game on Thursday, but they are not immediate impact players. We have not drafted a J.J. Watt. We have not drafted guys like that. So will we dip into free agency and make that happen? I don't think so. So now hopefully the coaching staff change, if that were to happen, does something for you. But you always have to remember, Packer Nation, it's the players who play the game. There isn't a coach in this league who can't call plays that can be successful. Every coach that has a job in this league can call plays that can be successful. In fact, you could bring up some high school coaches and have them go out there, learn the playbook, and call plays but it's the players who execute the plays. That will never change. So Terry is saying get J.J. Watt. I don't know about J.J. now. Man, love the guy. But boy, man, I got to think after all these injuries, and J.J. Watt's a smart guy. I wonder how much he's going to... I wouldn't mind that Watt that plays for the Wisconsin Badgers right now. Virginia is saying execution. Adam is saying far for president, which execution president. Love that comment. I just love it. All right. Give me a heart on the far for president or an angry face, because I just have to bring politics into it right now. But we didn't. We did it with sports. So thank you for that comment. And I will not say any more about that, except give me a heart or an angry face on far for president. I see quite a few hearts rolling across the screen right now. I don't know. I mean, what's going to happen in the Oval Office if Favre is president, for crying out loud? I mean, might be another Monica Lewinsky incident going on. All right. Tom is selling that stock. All right. Virginia is making the comment that we have the talent. And this is what I've kind of said all along, is the personnel that we're putting on the field is top notch. And the execution has been less than stellar. And sometimes when we have executed well, this team has been successful. Unfortunately, we have had real real difficulty executing, especially in the red zone. Now the question is with personnel becomes the injuries. And that's where, far from being down on the coaching staff right now, I'm high on the coaching staff. Now, it may change dramatically after this Atlanta Falcons game, because you could look at it like, well, geez, we were playing the Bears, right? So we went out there, we made some changes, we had a bunch of unscouted looks that the Bears weren't ready for, they hadn't seen. But if the Packers can pull off an upset, and it will be an upset, I'm sure, against the Atlanta Falcons, I don't know if the lines come out yet, because I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. But if they can execute, then I think they can pull off an upset. If they pull off an upset, then I think they can turn this season around. If they can turn this season around, then we all know we have a chance to get some guys back healthy. And if we can get some guys back healthy, we know that the ceiling is very high for this team right now. But that's a lot of ifs, isn't it? That's the problem, is there's a lot of ifs. Paul is saying we're raising a bunch of spoiled brats in the NFL. And Paul, I'm curious, because we've had this, I've started to buzz about this a little bit, as to whether Aaron Rodgers is starting to get to that point. You look at the first half of this game, the game against the Bears, and all we saw was Aaron Rodgers with the angry face, pointing where receivers should have gone. The Jeff Janis one was awful. I would have been pissed about that too. But is Aaron Rodgers getting to that point in his career where he's kind of untouchable? Where it's, my way or the highway, and now where we start pitting the head coach against the quarterback, and we start having conflict. All right. Now I'm gonna wax philosophical. I'm gonna wax philosophical for a moment here, because the definition of conflict is two entities trying to occupy the same space at the same time. And that's what happened with Brett Favre and Coach McCarthy at the end of Brett Favre's career. The same thing could possibly happen with Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy is supposed to be the guy who runs the show, and Aaron Rodgers is supposed to be the guy who goes out and executes the play. Now, from time to time, you can have dialogue and interchange and even disagreement without having conflict, because the two entities still know which space they occupy. But I do believe that we are starting to get to that point where Aaron Rodgers is trying to occupy Mike McCarthy's space, and perhaps Mike McCarthy is trying to occupy Aaron Rodgers' space. And we had the comment come across with all the commercials, it may be that Aaron Rodgers is getting to that point where he feels like he's untouchable. And Terry Haney is making a point out there, guys. You can respond to this right now. Emoji me your thoughts on Terry Haney's comment. I think Rodgers doesn't like McCarthy and his play calling. And I'll let you guys comment on that one, and then I'll comment. You can thumbs up if you agree, angry face if you disagree. Does Aaron Rodgers not like Mike McCarthy's play calling? And I'll remind you, remember last year when Clements was calling the plays, remember how much excitement there was about him calling the plays, and how Aaron Rodgers then was going to have a little more of his finger in the pie. But then let me also remind you how successful was our offense last season. We went 6-0 to start. And then as soon as we hit the Broncos, it all fell apart very quickly. I think we saw in the Chicago game that Aaron Rodgers likes that hurry-up offense. I think if we continue to get the ball out quicker, that we will see some success. But it's going to be on Aaron Rodgers' shoulders at that point. Mike is saying there's tension for sure. I agree. I think that there is starting to be tension. And I think, Mike McCarthy has tried to be the kind of coach. He lets the players do a lot of the things that the coaches normally would do. It's players out there, sending the team out onto the field, et cetera, et cetera. Some of these little things. I like that. But Mike McCarthy is a quarterback. He's an offensive guy. And you saw last year, after he finally gave up play calling, he took it back. And frankly, how many of you out there were calling for it? By the time we got to the Detroit game, I think, when he took it back, everybody was wanting McCarthy to take the play calling back because it was terrible. And the fact of the matter is, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't like the play calling, when he gets his way, which is basically the whole first half of last season, we better be scoring 30 points a game, my friend. Because now look at the way the offense has gone. Our offense, there is no question for a year and a half now almost that we have been on a downward trend on this offense. And personnel, like we said earlier, I think it was Virginia who said, you cannot put it on the fact that, oh, we don't have the personnel to do this. Okay? Let's talk about the personnel. Now, I'm not saying we don't have some people unavailable to us at this time. I'm not saying last year. To be quite honest, Eddie Lacy's weight was much less concern than the fact that we had no Jordy Nelson. But listen, this is a team right now. We had to put Lacy on IR, of course, but up until this point, we had Eddie Lacy, we had Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, we had two tailbacks, Eddie Lacy, and then a guy who led us, basically helped us get a Super Bowl, okay? We got Jordy Nelson, number one. We got Randall Cobb as the slot receiver. We got Devontae Adams, who has as much of a skill set as you'll ever see out there, as our third wide receiver. We had Jared Cook at the tight end position. We just finally started to get him going, and then he was out. It'd be nice to see him come back. He's one of the guys we have to get back at this point. Could really use him for this Atlanta game. But personnel on this offense is not the issue. Availability is an issue, but execution is the biggest issue right now. And that's why even the play calling. Now I've had, like I said, that play to Ty Montgomery, I didn't like it a bit. I understand why that play was called. Although to some extent, I don't understand why that play was called, and I think execution was an issue in that one too, because if that play was called, we had Nelson, we had Cobb stacked on Nelson over on the left, I believe, and that play, if you were to draw it up, should have been blocked up, I believe. So to me, it's an execution issue, and that's a good way to draw this all to a close. If the Packers execute against the Atlanta Falcons, we can get it done. I think we can get it done. The defense is playing well. Billy says the offense is too predictable. That's a common concern and criticism out there. Too predictable. Randall Cobb had a good game in a lot of ways with going over 100 yards, 10 catches, and I think he was one of the ones that went over 100 yards, maybe not, maybe at 80-some. But Randall Cobb dropped a potential 2 touchdowns in this game. So if we start executing, we still have to execute better. That's just all there is to it, especially in the red zone. And Paul's saying anyone can win if you execute. Yeah, at least you give your team a chance. And if we would execute... Look, just think back to the way that think back to the loss against the Vikings. We hardly scored at all in that game, and we had opportunities. Okay? The game against the Cowboys, had we scored when we had opportunities, would have been different. Thomas saying 98 yards for Cobb, I imagine you're mentioning. Yeah, I've got it sitting right here, But yeah, had a good game in a lot of regards, but then had especially the touchdown without the tap down, you just expect. That's plain and simple execution in the NFL. It's very difficult. It's amazing the body control that these receivers have, but in the NFL, that's expected. But if we execute, we can beat the Atlanta Falcons, but we are going to have to execute again. And I'll throw this out there as kind of a last question. Overall, do you think we executed or didn't execute in the game against the Bears? Let me make that more specific. In the first half, did we or did we not execute in the first half against the Bears? Or was it very similar to what we've seen in the past? You can thumbs up if you think we executed. Angry face if you think the first half of that game was way too familiar. Way too familiar. Jared's saying, no, we didn't. And I agree, Jared, but here's the positive side of that to me is very clear right now. And that is that this Packers team has yet to put together a full 4 quarters of football. That's plain and simple to me right now. If we put together, and a lot of people out there, we got angry faces rolling across the screen. And that's because you guys noticed, like I did, that in that first half, we were still not executing. Our receivers were having difficulty getting separation. Aaron Rodgers was holding the ball too long. Did you not notice the graphic that they threw up that when Aaron Rodgers gets the ball out in 2 seconds, he is accurate, completes it 75% of the time. As it goes up to 4 and 5 seconds, I forget what the breakdown was, it goes down to 58%. So this game plan against Atlanta had better be similar to the game plan against the Bears, because we finally handled the time of possession in that game. We finally took the time of possession and we won the game. We finally were knocking on the door of 30 points and we won the game. And guys, for all the, the time of possession in the Bears game, Bears had 20 minutes, 24, and we had 39 minutes and 36 seconds in that. That is a mic drop stat for me. And we did it. If a 5-yard pass is as secure and is executed well as a 4-yard run or a 5-yard run, we're going to be successful. Now, we got to carry it through the red zone is one of our problems, is because all of a sudden our execution breaks down in the red zone. And here's another thing I noted in this game against the Bears. And because teams are going to figure it out too. If we go single step drop, if we go up barely 2-step, 3-step drops and get the ball out fast, teams are going to figure that out too. But the thing with that is once they suck up, we can go deep on them. Now, we tried that, and we saw Jordy Nelson. He was able to get the PI on the one play, but we have not been able to connect on these long balls. Trevor Davis, no, we have not been able to connect on the long ball. Aaron Rodgers, I think, threw the one short. Jordy Nelson, we have not been able to connect on the long ball. So at some point, those shot plays, they're going to have to be there. We're going to need 1 or 2 of those. But I do like the fact that we are not relying on going down the field, on playing the outside boundary all game long. But this one is going to, and Mike is saying, then the deep ball gets open. And so you cannot have an entire game plan based on dink and dunk. But the majority of our passes, we need to get this offense in rhythm. Once we get the offense in rhythm, then we've got to pay attention to what the defense is doing, because eventually they have to respect that. That's the reason defenses have been successful against Aaron Rodgers, because they know they don't have to respect much inside, because we're not going to throw it there. They have to watch the running backs out of the backfield, and they have to watch the deep ball in the seam, and that's it. Well, now we've shown that's not the case. Now, if we can begin this game and be successful, get in rhythm with the short passing game, and then connect, finally make 1 or 2 connections in the long pass, number 1, we'll start to see this time of possession swing in our favor. And number 2, we'll have a chance for these shot plays. And Phil's on there saying, we've got to put Davis in the game to have a shot at the long ball. And I agree with that. Here's my 2 issues is every time Davis goes in the game, everyone knows that's all he's in there for right now. The only reason we ever put Davis on the field is to field a kick or to go deep right now. Because he's done nothing other than that. And so I even think with Davis on the field, we need to get him going. Give the kid a chance we saw him drop the one, but give the kid a chance short, and then let's break it deep. And also add to that, Jordy Nelson had his chance, and it's hard to say whether they would have connected in the Bears game on that PI. But he was interfered with. So, and same thing with Trevor Davis. It is important. If you force a pass interference, that means you beat your man, especially on what would have been a touchdown. But again, it would be nice to see a connection Once, and we haven't seen it. Yeah. So Trevor Davis may be a guy that comes in. I'd like to see us let Trevor Davis get his feet wet first. What they did is they brought him on the field. They sent him deep. They couldn't connect. Well, where's his confidence going to come from? So yeah, we're going to need that deep ball. Eventually, we're going to have to connect. All right. Well, I think this game in particular and our team's future right now comes down to execution. We have left so many plays on the field. And if the receiver drops the ball, Aaron Rodgers throws high, throws a tip ball that's then intercepted. This team is turning the ball over. It's the players that turn the ball over. It's the players that execute the plays. And we have got to start executing and playing good fundamental football right now. We can't leave the ball on the carpet as much. This issue has not gone away. It hasn't gone away. And you'll remember we had that issue last year, but it was the running backs. James Starks had, 5 fumbles last year, and Eddie Lacy had 4, if I remember right. So we have to start executing. We have to get back to sort of some grassroots football on offense. Some grassroots, I think the grassroots we need to get back to is West Coast football, where you throw the ball almost as if it's a handoff. It's all in rhythm, you know. It's shorter. It's a shorter game. It's a shorter game. And then hit the long ball when it comes your way. All right. And one more comment that I have to, a couple of you have mentioned this. Mark is mentioning it again now. We have got to give a shout out to Davante Adams, who came one shy of tying Don Hudson's record that stood from 1942, I believe, with 13 catches and 130 plus yards. Davante, we need you to stay consistent, my friend. What a heck of a performance. And you know, teams, they're coming, they're trying to take Jordy Nelson away because they know he's dangerous. If Davante Adams continues to improve and we can get Jared Cook back, then I think that we can compensate for the loss of the running back. We don't know how good James Starks is. He going to come back? If he does, is he going to be worth anything? This guy we brought up, is he going to be worth anything? We don't know where our running game stands, period. But if Davante Adams continues to play, and I'll say it once like I've said it 1,000 times, our receiver core is as good as our third receiver. And our third receiver played pretty good last Thursday. Now defenses have to take notice. And then now they start to struggle against us. Now Jordy Nelson. If you start not knowing where you're wanting to roll a safety, just wait to see what Jordy Nelson can do to that. Because Jordy Nelson has been open from time to time. We just haven't been able to make that connection. So it's going to be a difficult game coming up. We're going to talk a lot more about it, but I don't want to take any more of your time today. I hope you're having a fantastic Monday. My coffee is cold, so it's time for me to go. DM is saying old school West Coast. I like that term. Just keep matriculating the ball down the field, boys, and we'll be all right. All right, guys, well, I'm going to let you go for today. I hope you have a good Monday. Tomorrow I will be back, same bat time, same bat place, and we'll talk some more about this matchup coming up against the Atlanta Falcons. We need to turn our focus to that, of course. So I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good day. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube and you wouldn't mind mashing that little like button down there, that would be great. And subscribe to the channel. And for all of you that follow me live, I will catch you again tomorrow. Have a great day. Go Pack. Get the ring.